I know when I was finding you out through RTIR newsletter, love some of the people that they've given me, including Miss Peterson over there that was running for political office and has held some, actually she held past political office. She's not currently running for anything. But your whole conversation is about the millennials. And I know that there's been this whole conversation around the Great Resignation and how a lot of the millennials are saying, skip this going to work kind of thing, skip all of this kind of mess. We're just going to go into entrepreneurship. We're going to go into the gig economy. We're going to take an early out of some of the jobs and all of this. So it seems to be a new narrative from what I remember being a graduate of the 80s and all in that kind of space. But it also seems to be some folks that are just like, I've seen it, what my parents did. I saw what my grandparents did. I saw what my great-grandparents did. I want to try something new and different. That's just my take on it, but I'd love to hear your take and all in that space.
Yeah, well, number one, thank you for having me as a guest today on your show. I think we're going through, I'm not going to call it a revolution in the marketplace, in the workplace, but I am going to call it an evolution. I think we have the younger generation is looking at work differently than previous generation. Being a baby boomer myself and having a work ethic that came down from those folks that had a taste of the Depression and World War II, it was a different mentality than we have now. So I think the millennials are really trying to find their way, and the workplace is trying to show them the way, so to speak, because now what we're having, besides quiet quitting, we also have the concept of quiet firing. So you have employers getting to the point where if employees are not producing, the reality of it is they have to be let go. So I think that there's a whole change and everyone's trying to feel their way about things. Because at the end of the day, work is work. And at the end of the day, businesses are in business to produce profits. And regardless whether it's a business for profit or if it's a nonprofit organization, there's certain realities of organizational structure that have to happen. You know, people go to work, they deliver a product or an end result, and the organization keeps on growing and growing. And when that equation is miffed somehow, productivity and society kind of slowly starts grinding to a halt.
No, that makes a lot of sense and everything. One of the things I've heard a lot of people talking about is they've gone in for the gig jobs. And I think I alluded to that earlier, but I know a lot of people, including some of my friends, that have left main jobs and then they went to work as, say, a DoorDash or a Grubhub or a Lyft or an Uber or things along those lines. And then I've seen a number of folks that have gone into what some people might consider risky fields, like crypto and things along those lines. But I just wondered what kind of observations you've been seeing about the millennials and what kind of ways they are pivoting into these great resignations and all in that space.
Well, I think as the book once said, these are the best of times and these are the worst of times. The exciting thing is there are more options now. One can have a traditional job and also have a side gig, and or either one or both or neither. You really can make your own path any way you want to. That's the reality of modern day life, which is very exciting. All right. Unfortunately, traditional society has been built on you take a job, and when you put enough money away, then you spin the dice of starting your own business. Now, with the advent of the internet and pandemic, and shameless plug, the book I've written, A Life Beyond the Pandemic, I kind of show people that you can have it all. And really, I think the model now is based on we're all here for a reason, and now society has given you the opportunity to live your life purpose and really live it on your terms.
That makes a lot of sense. The other thing that I know that both Nick and Kim have talked about it has been the education system and how bad it has gotten in the last couple of years and how it can be improved and all of that. Don't want to put words in their mouth, and I know Nick may come on and even give some of his own thoughts and everything. But I do remember when I was in school, there was a whole other option that you could have. You could go to vocational school, and definitely people were encouraged to go to, if not college, at least community colleges where some of those vocational trades were definitely applied and that you could learn those trades and all of that. I don't know that the school systems are doing as good a job of that now, but I was just wondering your take on that. I know North Carolina has an amazing community college kind of plan, and a lot of great community colleges here, one here in Durham, one in
No, I strongly agree with you. At the end of the day, I'm in northern New Jersey, about 25 minutes outside of Times Square, and there's a big need for vocations. It's easier to get an appointment with a brain surgeon here than it is to get an appointment with a plumber. And the plumbers are making money hand over fist. And the reality is, we all have to flush a toilet. So and there's some plumbers in this part of the country making more money than doctors. So for the trades to be ignored, it's a big mistake, because the reality of it is we all need the trades. Plumbers, electricians, bricklayers, masons, and the list is endless. And to really negate them, I think it's a big mistake, societal and otherwise. Furthermore, as we all know, some people, not all of us, were cut out for academics. I mean, I personally enjoy working with my hands, I should say. Yes, I did the grind. I received the 4-year degree, and I was accepted to graduate work, etc. But at the end of the day, the options are unlimited, and the financial prosperity that goes with it is unlimited as well.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad you brought that up and everything. You said the title of the book, and I'm probably getting myself in trouble within that work and certain kind of outlets and everything, but you called it a pandemic. You're not the first person who's called it that. And I was just wondering your take on why the book has that title and why you think that it is a pandemic as opposed to a pandemic. Because, like I said, I've heard some folks that have said that, and definitely I can understand parts of their views, but I'd love to hear it from the horse's mouth, as they say in that old expression, and all along those lines.
Sure. Well, the book technically is called Life Beyond the Pandemic, a Practical New Journey Handbook. My concern when the first pandemic broke out was the massive amount of people losing their livelihoods. That is, jobs and people losing small businesses. I mean, it was at the point where, if you recall, the first year of the pandemic, the whole country was going haywire, and the federal government had to come in and help folks out with as we say, bill paying money. So, with that said, I wrote a practical book taking people from the spiritual to the practical. The spiritual being, we're all here for a reason and a purpose. And once you find that reason or purpose, you're going to find where you belong, be it an employee someplace, an employer, running your own business, doing both. The reality of modern day life, which is simply amazing, again, it really depends on what side of the coin you're on, is you really can do it all. Challenges, obviously, days and time and X amount of hours in the day, and lifestyle and costs, etc. But in this day and age, you can have a full-time job, 9 to 5, and then part-time you could be running an online business. You could be doing some of the other things you had mentioned, the DoorDash. The opportunities are really quite extensive. It's really up to you. What do you want to do? How do you want to make a living? Do you want to live your life purpose and try to make a living around your life purpose? Do you just want to make money? How hard are you willing to work? But one thing I do notice that's very important, that's a challenge in modern day life with the millennials, is a work ethic. At the end of the day, when someone pays you, they expect X amount of productivity from you. And, the millennials don't really put that together yet. Everyone wants to be rich out of the gate. Everyone wants to be a vice president, president of the company. And the reality of it is, those of us who have been around with gray hair know that you need experience. It's a chicken and egg thing. You want to get wealthy, but you need experience. How do you get experience? You need to work. So until that work ethic, I think, is solidified, we're going to have a bit of a challenge with this generation. And I think, again, as I mentioned before, I see it as an evolution, not a revolution. I think there's a change, as there was at the turn of the century when we finally decided to work a 5-day week and 40 hours. So now we're trying to figure our way with working from home, working remotely. Do you really have to be there? Who has to be there? For how long? Because obviously it's going to impact corporate work, because now do companies really have to rent a complete floor at top dollar at a metropolitan area? Maybe they need to just rent half of it. Maybe half of the workforce can be working at home and still be productive.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense and everything. I know the other thing that goes on in that space is that other generations, a lot of times people would get a job, and they would stay in that job for what seemed like forever, like maybe the entire time. And a lot of the millennials, I think, are going through maybe 7 or 8, maybe even 10 or 15 jobs during the course of their lifetime. So I was wondering, how is that impacting the workforce in your mind? Because I do know I don't have any kids of my own, but my 2 nephews are 13 and 14, which means in another few years they'll be looking at the workforce as well. And I fully imagine that they may have, 8 to 15 jobs before they are done with their careers and everything. Whereas, and I probably had about 4 or 5, but definitely a lot of other generations had, if they were lucky, 2 or 3, or maybe even just 1. But I was just wondering how that process has impacted the millennials as well.
Well, I agree with you. Back in my generation, before my generation, and on the tail end of my generation, we had the word pension, which no longer exists. The workforce has changed. The workaday world has changed. The marketplace has changed. Realistically, other than taking a profession, meaning doctor, lawyer, accountant, architect, things of that nature, and on the vocational side, plumber, electrician, etc. Those fields, those titles will always be around. But the reality of working in a modern day workforce, in the modern day marketplace, is things change day to day. I'm sure you're seeing current events. Well, you're here of a company laying off 1,000 people, 5,000 people. So it's very difficult to build a future with a company where you don't even know if the company's going to be around in a couple of weeks, couple of months. You're seeing what's going on with Twitter, with the new buyer, Evan, looking to, that's up in the air, and it's talking about laying off 1,000 people. So modern day life is unfortunately very unstable. And with that said, you have to be reactive and proactive at the same time, meaning, I just lost my job, what do? I have to be prepared to land on my feet. Or I have multiple jobs that if one job doesn't supply enough, I have another job to fall back until I find a third job. So the challenge is, realistically, I'm also a life coach and career coach, the reality of it is a person may have in a lifetime multiple careers, definitely multiple jobs. Now, what I call a career is a path, a doctor, a lawyer, let's call it a career title. But you may be working with multiple companies with that title. Conversely, as the marketplace changes, unfortunately, some of these positions are being eliminated altogether. So people have to reinvent themselves and take their current education and skill set and say, okay, where can I apply that? When I first started the show, there was mention of veterans. Now, veterans are coming to the table with a whole bunch of skill sets, but they have to be tweaked and put in such a way that the marketplace understands them. Realistically, if someone's a lieutenant and in artillery, there's really no need in the marketplace for people to be shooting tanks and guns. However, they do have the skill set of management, mentoring, training. So they bring a boatload of skill sets to the table, but they have to be reinterpreted for the marketplace in the way that the marketplace understands them. And there's challenges there. And that's why people like myself come to the table and say, look, okay, you're an officer. Officer means management, means supervision. So the marketplace needs management, needs supervision, mentoring, etc. So it's just a matter of the traditional way of looking at work and the marketplace has just changed, and you've got to look at the marketplace and working differently than we did once before. Hence, it's an evolution versus a revolution in the workplace.
That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to bring in some of the other folks and see if they've got questions for you as well. We've got Shaquille Latimer, who's from Down Under, and he is definitely a hedge fund person and has been involved in a lot of amazing things in that space. And of course, he is also, like I said, in Australia, but has had a lot of work in that millennial space, because I believe that he qualifies as a millennial, if I remember correctly, and all along those lines. And of course, we got somebody that from around the corner from you, because Lee Newton Rhodes is from the New York area and has done some stuff in the political field, and he was actually asking you whether you can teach work ethics and all in that space. I want to bring Lee Newton Rhodes into the conversation as well. Also, somebody will.
Good morning, Oreste. Welcome to the group.
Thank you, Lee.
Conversation, that would be greatly appreciated. And all along those lines, and we'll see if Chris Beckle, who's a military person, can join us as well, because Chris is definitely got some of that military leadership that you were talking about.
Oh,
as well. Of course, we've also got
you hit a nerve.
Dan Weatherden in the Ukrainian area and all along those lines. So we've got some amazing folks here and all along those lines. But Shaquille, I'll start with you and see if you got any questions, and then if some of the other folks have got questions as well. But you definitely fall in that millennial space, and you've done a lot of amazing things as a kind of corporate type, and definitely a hedge fund person, and all along those lines. But I'll let you ask any questions that you have.
I don't know if I'd say definitely a millennial. I'm just on the cusp. I'm on the cusp. There's supposed to be a micro generation between the Gen Xers and millennials. And that's what I fit into. But actually, just slightly off the topic, I've bought your book already, as I normally do when authors come on to our shows.
Thank you.
On Amazon. And I thought, gee, some of these titles look quite familiar. I actually read one of your books on Kindle a couple of years ago, I think it was, or last year. So yeah, I think anyone who wants to go and have a look on Amazon will find an array of different books. But back to I think your main point about millennials. I think a lot of people are looking for that work-life balance. And
Yeah.
there's a lot more technology that's available. I think a lot of kids, they're not kids anymore, but a lot of them, when they were kids, saw their parents going through divorces. They saw the parents working long hours, and they didn't want that. But they also recognise it's becoming harder and harder for them to actually, be able to buy a house and survive and have a similar kind of lifestyle to what their parents have had. So people are just trying to find that balance. I think, it's good to see big corporations look to use technology to allow people to work from home at least part of the time, if not all of the time. And without them having to rely on things that are just gig economy kind of jobs. So I also think that, good financial planning and letting them know how to manage their future, teaching them, what they can be doing to improve their financial conditions so that they have some wealth when they're older, will be very important, because it's very clear that baby boomers are not benefiting as much from, Social Security and that type of arrangement that most countries have had. They're certainly not benefiting as much as their parents did. And of course, millennials and Gen Zs, I think, have got really no chance of the government being able to afford to look after them as they get older. So those are all things that I think people should focus on in that age group.
No, I agree. I think the reality of it is that there's a lack of financial education, I call it. We're really not taught how to balance our checkbooks, right out of the gate. I mean, we're not taught a lot of financial education that we need to be taught, and especially in the dynamic economies, the way they are. Let's face it, it's a world economy now.
One of the things that you said, and then I'll pass over to somebody else, it was about productivity. The employers expect people to be productive. If you're not productive, the employer's not making any money.
Right.
They're going to have to let you go. I'm a big believer in this when it comes to Social Security for people that could work. If you're on welfare and you can work, why is there no productivity expectations set by government? Government's there taking other people's hard-earned money in order to give it to you. I understand if you're out of work for a small period of time, or you're going through something in your life, but people who stay on the dole for decades, it's just not acceptable in my view.
Well, they're really not helping anyone out. The challenge is these are institutions that have been set up many, many years ago with a certain methodology, and they're not really being current with the modern day life. Because I believe everyone should be working directly and indirectly. And direct work is obviously you show up, you have a job, you do what you need to do. Indirectly, meaning it was up to me. I would like to see in every town or city a community center. If you're receiving money from the state, you should be at that community center watching people's children, helping people find jobs, dress for work. I mean, as the saying goes, it's an old saying, but I think it still holds true today, and unfortunately we don't use it much. It takes a village. It really takes a village to really raise an individual, and even when they're older, it takes a village. We all need to kind of help each other out to get where we need to go.
I think the Mormons Mormons have a very good system for dealing with this. If you have a look at what the Mormon Church does, it's very rare for Mormons to be on welfare unless they're injured or they're disabled or something. And so what they actually do is they go and essentially work for the church. They help out with different things, and it's supposed to be a temporary thing until they're able to get back into the workforce. I don't know why we don't adopt that kind of a strategy across the board. Now, I'm speaking out of school there. There's some people here that might be able to expand on that further than I can.
There are some people, but the thing is, she made a statement that if you're not productive, then you get laid off. What? But that's not true. You could be productive and get laid off. Okay, I guarantee you that when Elon Musk, that rich billionaire, takes over Twitter, he's going to lay off a bunch of people because his debt load is too high. It has nothing to do whether you're productive or not. It's the fact is he's not squeezing profits and his debt load's too high. So if anybody on the panel,
are you trying to tell me that the only conceivable reason?
Let me tell you, it doesn't make a difference.
You're trying to tell me that the only conceivable reason why Elon Musk is talking about firing 75% of the staff at Twitter is because of debt loads?
Yes, because of his debt loads.
It's
well known that he overpaid for the piece of trash called Twitter. He's got to borrow $13 billion. His interest payments are going to be $1 billion a year, and so hence you get laid off. So anybody on this audience who believes if you're productive, you'll be hired.
Hey, Nick, hold on. Nick, let me just say, hold on a second.
Come on, Shaquille.
Let me correct a couple of things that Nick has said.
So I got some stuff on my share screen here. Mark,
Richard themselves
put on my share screen, and I'll go over some data stuff. So first of all, boom, there's your book, Oreste.
Thank you, Oreste. Thank you.
Amazon, I mean, you got tons of stuff here, man. I'm going to start going out there.
This guy's a writer.
Good stuff, yeah, man. I'm going to go out there and get some of your stuff.
You're way above this panel.
Try that. Seriously, Snooki writes books though. So the second thing I wanted to do is present you with Census Bureau, right? Census Bureau stuff. Sex by age by veteran status.
Right.
For the civilian population, 18 years and older. This is 2021. Look at the veterans here. There's 16 million veterans. The margin barrier is I'm hoping it's 78,000, which is that's a lot. But basically, this is what we're talking about. I mean, 16 million veterans in the country. That's a lot of veterans. And if you want to see what the future holds, this is the future here. It goes all the way down to 2050. You can see where the World War II vets are slowly but surely decreasing.
Right.
The Vietnam era is decreasing, but still, right now, we're talking about 6 million just from the Vietnam era. So, I mean, and I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I was basically told, hey, I got 20 years. Well, what type of private industry experience do you have?
Right.
And I said, wait a minute, I dealt with contractors, I dealt with that stuff. No, we're not talking about contractors. We're talking about private industry. What type of private industry? Yeah. So I went out and I was a matter and framer for MJ Designs for a half a year, and then an entry level, computer instructor for another half a year, and then I got picked up. By a company, an alcohol distributing company, as an IT person. So I worked there for 3 years, and then that's 5 years. After 5 years of doing government applications the old way, that USA Jobs was not quite as friendly as it was. I finally get picked up as entry level at Social Security, and when I walked in, within 2 years, I was promoted. Within a year after that, I was promoted. Within a year after that, I was promoted. Within a year after that, I was promoted. So I was at GS15 in a matter of 4 years. And they sat there and they said, "Okay, now you're where you're supposed to be. Lead." And it was like, "Oh my God, you got to be kidding!"
Yeah.
Why didn't you guys just bring me in as a 15? Well, we had to make sure you knew what you were doing. Really? So I mean, at the end I was a staff director. But I mean, the bottom line is this: is that if people have skills, Oreste,
right?
And man, I see it all the time on LinkedIn where some veteran, comes out and they go, "You're exactly right. I was an artillery officer. Well, we can't really use an artillery officer.
Right.
We can't use an intelligence officer. What good are you?
Right.
We don't have intelligence well, how about like creativity? How about thinking through? How about
Right.
how about critical thinking? How about, well, but we're talking about private industry, you know.
Right.
And I see buddies of mine, or not buddies, but people that are getting out after 4 years, and they're becoming consultants. Come on, Oreste.
Right.
You know, they were what, a sergeant?
Right.
They're getting out and they're becoming consultants,
Right.
leadership consultants after 4 years in the military.
Right.
And they're getting bucks.
Right.
The government's hiring them. Oh yeah, tell us about IT. And it's like,
Right.
after 4 years, you can't even spell IT.
Right.
So I mean, so you have these situations where, I get it, the life coach aspect, you get them going.
Right.
But I've seen other veterans that take on skills, take on jobs as interns, and they do fantastic. As a matter of fact, we brought one in one time, and she had been wounded twice in Afghanistan, came in, and they gave her a task. The field office manager gave her a task of doing something. And I said, that's what you're going to give her for the day?
Right.
And they said, oh yeah, for the day. Within 1 hour, she came back, she said, okay, that's finished. You know, what else you got?
Right.
And the field officer manager said, you got that finished in an hour? And she goes, yeah, it's done. You want to check it? She went out, she goes, how'd you get this finished in an hour? She goes, and I said, she's a veteran.
Right.
She knows what she's doing. You give her a task, she's going to get it done. And she's not going to putz around and do whatever. She's going to get it done, and then she's going to go right back to the next task. So have a series of tasks laid out for her the entire day, because I'm telling you, she's going to get it all done. And after that, it was like, wow, these veterans are really something. Yeah, no crap, Sherlock.
Right.
They're out there. They've been through crap. Get them in here and get them working and get them doing stuff.
Well, first thing, Chris, I'd like to say thank you for your service.
No, the veterans are definitely something.
But the reality of it is, the reality of modern day life is, and it's sad that you have to bang your own drum. Nobody's going to bang it for you. And what that means is you have to sit down and work with someone, obviously someone like myself, that's going to really sit down with you. And my book helps people with that process to say, what do you do? And really bring it down to the core essence. Again, the second I hear someone's an officer or a non-commissioned officer, I know their management material. I know the supervisory material right out of the gate. Okay. Then from there, we can extrapolate even more. Somebody's intelligence, data analysis, right there. I mean, these people eat, sleep, and breathe analytics.
Nick?
That's what these people do. That's their livelihood. So, unfortunately, you don't have people thinking that both parties, unfortunately, have to think out of the box. The veteran has to say, okay, I'm not just this title, bombardier. I am a person with these skill sets. Boom, boom, boom. The employer has got to say, I'm looking for a data analyst. Can't just say, okay, this guy was a bombardier, I can't use him. Well, again, both parties, and that's the challenge. And it's not impossible. And I'm the person in between. That's the grease and the mortar that helps that mesh. But we need both parties, and the marketplace has got to be open. Because again, you put that uniform on, that's it. You're helping me lead my lifestyle. So there's not enough praise to thank all the veterans, those we have lost, those who are suffering, and those who will serve and are serving, to give you thanks.
I just got a quick question for Chris and for Oreste.
No,
You guys
definitely
speak about
appreciate
veterans.
that. Hey, son, one of the things that they talked about, and I bet you.
Go ahead, Mark.
I think there might be a bit of a delay on Mark's side.
Go for it, Lee.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. We were talking about veterans this morning. Are we seeing better quality people with better work ethics going into the military? Or is it the military that is training these people and teaching them better work ethic skills and life skills?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think what's happening is that you have people that are exceptional individuals that are going into the military. And, a lot of people say, oh, well, that's the West Point people. That's the Air Force Academy people. That's a bunch of bull crap. The bottom line is you have people outside of the blessed academies that are going in, and they're officers, and they're coming out of civilian institutions, and they're very, very good at what they do. And what they're doing is they're trying to share with the younger troops. And I know that because my daughter's one. She's an officer. She's an Air Force officer, and she shares with airmen how to do things. And that's so important to be able to do that. And when you do that and you help them do things in a very productive manner, then you're actually lifting, the old high tide lifts all boats. That's what it does. So then you have people that then take that and they get their rank and they start to share that. They start to bring it down, and legacy type aspects. And this, unfortunately, during the Vietnam War, there was a lot of very, very smart people that were drafted into the military, and they stuck it out for 20 years. And after a while, it was kind of like, just retire. You're getting too old. Just retire. Just go away. Because you're an old Vietnam vet, and you really don't understand what it's like to have all this technology and all this other stuff and everything else. And I was in that tween type thing where it was, I was taking a lot of measured share from the Vietnam vets, and there were other younger people that were coming in that loved the technology aspect of the whole thing. But the Vietnam vets said, screw this, get a pencil, paper, figure out the airspeed. Get a pencil, paper, figure out the coursework, figure out all that stuff. And they said, well, yeah, but I can press a button and get the same result, so I don't understand why I'm doing this by hand. So it was a really tough transition to be able to make that happen. But the older folks, the people that were in war, the people that were in a war where you didn't have all that technology, were really the ones that really helped us, grow up and be better people as a result of that. So I don't know whether I answered your question, Lee, but that's basically I think that's what you're asking is, are military training people? Yes. Are good people coming in? Yes. And the good people are the ones that are helping to train people to be better so they can go off and they can do good civilian jobs.
I don't know if you looked at this study, Chris, that if you looked at the top CEOs of the Fortune 500...
If you tell me they're Air Force Academy grads, I'm going to puke.
No, the biggest thing they have in common isn't they graduated from Harvard or Yale. The biggest ones and the biggest group are veterans. And in terms of lawyers, there was only one that made the Fortune 500, and that was Hank Greenberg at AIG. No lawyers made CEO of the Fortune 500. It was really, really bad. I don't know if you look at those studies or not, maybe on what your data shows, but you'll find it very interesting. I looked at the study quite some time ago, and the CEOs were all veterans. I mean, that was the biggest common denominator.
The interesting thing, and Nick, to get back to the lawyer thing, the interesting is
that makes a lot of sense.
That are running for office, lawyers, right? They're lawyers, and they say, I went to Afghanistan, and I got the Bronze Star, and this and that, and look what I am. I'm a combat veteran. Absolutely, I'll never take that away from you. You're a combat veteran. But let me tell you something. If you're a lawyer and you were part of the JAG Corps, you didn't see bullets going over your head. You were back in the back area, and basically you were prosecuting people for drunk on duty or any type of sexual assault or stuff like that. That's what a JAG's job was. So if these people that are JAGs sit back and go, I was a SEAL, really, or were you attached to a SEAL company? So it's that type of thing. It's not really falsifying your record, but it's kind of just embellishing it just a little bit, because if you're a combat vet, like, Crenshaw and some of those others that actually saw combat, got wounded, and that type of thing, like, that's wild. But if you're a combat vet and you're always back in the rear, and you sit back and you go, hey, I was in combat, I did this. No, you were never in combat. You were a combat veteran. It's a totally different deal there.
No, I don't think that people are going to make that distinction too. Look, everybody embellishes. That street sweeping job that was advertised, I talked about, that the requirement was you couldn't be a white man to apply for it in Australia. It wasn't advertised as a street sweeping job. What did they embellish it onto? A community environmental hygienist or some ridiculous crap that the council in Melbourne has come up with. So look, people are always going to embellish it. Nobody's going to say, look, I was attached to a combat unit in Afghanistan. I didn't really do much. I prosecuted a private for being a little bit pissed one day on duty. No one's going to say that. They go, oh yeah, look, I was right there. I had a law book in one hand and I was fighting off bullets in the other. Of course they're going to say that.
Shot in the ass. Like Kerry.
Law book in one hand, AK-47 in the other. But Sasha, I had a question for you around social media and everything, and then I definitely want to hear more from Oreste as well. But Sasha, I understand that Canada is going after one of the that being the lovely folks at Facebook. So apparently they are going to have some things going on where they are going to not allow Facebook as much into Canada and all in that space. That's what I was reading yesterday, but I'd love to hear if you've heard more news about this and exactly what is going on, because I know they tried it in Australia and then they backed off of it. They thought they were going to do it and then they backed off of it because I guess Facebook bribed them or whatever. But I do know that Canada, they're trying to do some limitations limitations in what Facebook can have in that space and all of that. So I guess they're trying to like say that some of our shows may not even make it into Canada. But I was just wondering your take on what's going on with Canada and their rules against Facebook and maybe some of the other media giants as well.
Good luck to government of Canada and good luck to Facebook and let them fight it all out. Now, speaking about the earlier topic, I would like to add, and I've said many times on this other shows, that I'm a strong believer in the military service, which would be mandatory for all people 18 and older, at least 1 but better 2 years of mandatory military service with no exception whatsoever, because this is what can actually bring the best in people, that can cement the nation between different races, religions, groups, and so on. They're all in the same environment, they're all working together, helping each other, and that could be a very critical achievement for especially a situation where the United States is now.
I think it should be a requirement for public office to have served in the military.
Absolutely, at least.
Because otherwise, you don't know anything about what really is happening.
Absolutely, agree.
Well, that was a conversation, wasn't it? Well, you're trying to get say something. I'm not sure. I think that.
What am I going to say to that? It's like,
I think that sentiment is good, but you need to have politicians from all different walks of life. And as much as I have respect for the veterans of any of our Western countries, to suggest that only they are capable of making decisions in government and being able to represent the people, I don't think that's
what we're saying, Jack.
I don't think
that's what we're saying.
I know that's what you're saying, and I'm disagreeing with you, as I do with almost every guest that ever on.
You don't want to go serve in the military. I understand that.
Who said that? Who said I don't want to serve in the military? I wasn't allowed to because I'm a dual citizen, and so I wasn't allowed to serve in my militaries. I was in cadets, and then I thought I was going to go in, and no, they wouldn't let me. So
that's too bad.
Yeah, it's no reason why I couldn't go into politics.
At least you took the ROTC route and didn't get that training.
But Dan, are you saying that because there have been some great politicians that have come out of community activism? They did not necessarily serve. Now, they might have served in Peace Corps. They might have served in community activism. John Lewis.
Name 2.
Andrew Young.
Name 3.
Maynard Jackson.
No, I just thought, when are you going to get
Jill Johnson?
Obama?
I was going to get to Barack eventually.
That's generational, though, Dan. That's generational.
Eventually, but you I named several that were.
Dad, if you get your way, you're going to have Washington D.C. will be just full of people that were in the catering hall. That's what you'll end up with.
Well,
you're going to end up with everybody else.
Oreste, help me out here.
Well, unfortunately, I'm also an interfaith minister, so I don't discuss sex, politics, and religion.
Bless Shaquille, will you?
You know, I don't. I learned years ago that once I became a minister, and an interfaith minister basically is an all-faith minister, and I help everybody out. But the second you get involved in politics, everyone's got an opinion. And as the saying goes, not to be too vulgar, everyone's got one and everyone stinks but your own.
Yeah. That comes from the military.
Right.
Everyone has one.
Everyone has one, and everyone's got a butthole, and everyone stinks but your own. So I'd stop getting involved. So I'm in the business of helping people, building people, getting people on their way. The rest of the stuff, you see what's going on in the world. It's over my pay grade, as we say.
Unfortunately, fixing it's over the pay grade of the people that are running the place.
Well,
I'll leave it alone.
Oh, okay. Let's let the lawyers run everything. Then that's better alternative.
Oreste will Dan, Oreste, you'll understand this.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
No,
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things that
You want to talk, Dad, about a group of people, about the sheer
leave that alone.
narcissism that this group of people have got. That they create rules for every single industry, covering all give themselves special titles like that. That's absolutely tremendous, isn't it? That is the sheer level.
No, hold on a second. Ariste said something very interesting. Hold on. Because Ariste said something very interesting that I wanted to get to and everything. Actually, I'm a big believer in that, and I've seen people that do some amazing work in that thing. But as an interfaith minister, how do you find working with other organizations, and how do you manage to do that? Because one of the things I find that interfaith ministers do is there's a lot of conversations between their Muslim brothers.
I was going to say, Mark looks like he's about to fade out.
Yeah. Well, basically, based on what I heard, as an interfaith minister, it really every religion and every spiritual tradition believes their path is the right path. So we try to find common ground to do really God's work, the Creator's work, and try to find the higher ground. Regarding what was said before, I think we're at the point, unfortunately, and this is going to be a very controversial statement I'm going to make. I find all the institutions are corrupted, and it's at the top level. And unfortunately, the people at the top, if they don't set the proper example, as we say, crap falls downhill. So we have all the institution of work has changed dramatically. Years ago, you put your 20 years in, you put your 25 years in, you got your gold watch and your pension. The institution of education. Now it's only the ultra rich who can go to school these days. These kids are coming out with debt, 5-figure, 6-figure debt. Institution of religion has changed dramatically. The institution of the family. So I personally see society basically unraveling at the institutional level, and unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Is it because of lack of faith, or why we?
I think we're back to being a man and seeing men and understanding men. I think we're back to really basics of the 7 deadly sins: greed, lust of power, lust of money, and I think we're back to the basics of human animal kingdom. And unfortunately, it's not a good idea. It's not a good situation, because those at the top really are tasked with taking care of those below. And the attitude I see in the States, I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, the attitude I see in the States, having worked with senior executives and people at high level, basically, I got mine, too bad you didn't get yours, good luck, have a good life. And that's not a way to run an airline. It's not a way to, that's the way I see it personally. That's my opinion. And as I said before, opinions are like buttholes. Everyone's got one and everyone thinks but your own. But here, I got mine, you didn't get yours, too bad. See you later.
Let's follow Chris Greco's example, that if you're going to go into political office, you must go to law school first and get a 3-year law degree. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And then
actually, I already addressed
legal
the
background that's in politics. I think that's a great idea, Chris.
Well, that's the way the Greeks went. That's the way the Romans went. You saw what happened to their civilization. So there you go.
Yeah, well,
Did you see the correlation between law degrees and character?
Yeah,
there's a big difference between those two things.
well,
What you want to do is break the rules. You want to get rid of the filibuster. You want to change voting rights, federalize abortion. I mean, why do you need a lawyer? You just go in and make shit up on the spot.
well, the challenge we have in the States is we have 5 people in the room. We got 8 opinions. So,
Hey, that's fantastic.
you can use that. Just send me a check every time you use it. But no, it's true. You have here. It's a whole industry here on people who are trying to influence government. Politicians are being paid off left and right, and they admit it. It's public disclosure. You have a whole industry of the words escape me right now, of people who are being paid to influence public officials, and that's just
Lobbyists.
Thank you. There's an industry of lobbyists here that are paid to influence, the government officials, and that should be outlawed. But unfortunately, you have the rich making the laws. So, it's the Midas touch. Who makes the rules? The guy with the gold. It's a golden touch. I got the gold. I make the rules. And unfortunately, they're not looking out. In my mind, as an interfaith minister, I'm looking at the greater good. What's good for all of us. And unfortunately, the 7 deadly sins. Greed. I got mine.
About another 10 minutes, and I know you got your show.
Lust of power, and that's it.
Everything. But I was just wondering if you could give us some more insight on what's going on there in Ukraine or Russia. I do know that I am reaching out to somebody from the scholarly department that is going to hopefully give us some insight onto Chi and all along those lines. But I'd love to hear your thoughts as to what is going on there in Russia and what's happening currently.
What's important is to understand that the West and the United States, of course, they went through a certain threshold of, I remember at the beginning of this war that everybody was repeating that no U.S. soldiers will be involved in fighting. No heavy weapons will be delivered to Ukraine, so they were supplying some javelins, some little stuff, so at least make sure that Ukraine will not fold in the 3-4 days, okay? Well, now several months later, in the last couple of days, the military leadership of Russia, I'm not talking about Putin, but I'm talking about the minister of armed forces, he called, and then the general of the top Russian command, they called to their U.S. counterparts, and they were told in very clear messages that in case of making atrocities such as using nuclear arms, what exactly U.S. and NATO will do to Russians. And they described it point by point. Here's number 1, here's number 2, number 3, number 4. But you know what Russians said? Sorry, but we never thought about using nuclear arms. Where did they get this idea? We were not going to use nuclear arms. It's very different rhetorics from Putin a few weeks ago. He was threatening in very strict terms to use at least tactical nuclear weapons. It's not going to happen because now it's very clear that it was shown that number 1, the all Black Sea Russian fleet will be destroyed in next 40 minutes. Then in 2 days, all Russian troops in Ukraine will be completely destroyed, killed, and defeated, of course. And number 3, they even pinpointed the minister of this guy, I forget his name, it's a funny looking guy. So they said, okay, we know where's your house in Moscow, on Rublev Chaussee. Okay, we know the number, okay, here's your number 24, such street. And then after all your forces in Ukraine will be destroyed, this house, here's the house, that house will be destroyed. Oh my God, they're becoming now very, very nice little schoolboys after this.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, I think the West from talking about no US will never get involved. Oh, we're not going to do this and that. I think now it's very, very different situation. And I'll tell you, for the good of all civilized world, Russia must be not only stopped, it must be defeated, and once and for all, the last 3 generations in the world were living at the scare of nuclear war. It should be no longer continue like that. Enough is enough.
Yeah, Sasha, I agree with you that Putin never ever said that he was going to use nuclear weapons. What he said was he was going to use all means available, and that made and that's the way the Soviets. And I'm sorry, but they are Soviets. You can sit there and talk to me about they're Russia and all that. They're Soviets because they take their words and they go, I never said nuclear weapons. I never mentioned it. I don't know where you're coming up with this. I said all means available. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to use nuclear weapons. So, you Ukrainians you're taking that and you're just going crazy with it. But it's not, and the media does that. But I never said that. So if something happens, it must be the Ukrainians because certainly we wouldn't release a dirty bomb. We're the Russians. We just want our land, the land that we were that was ours to begin with. We just want to take that back, and we want to make sure there's no Nazis in Ukraine. So I don't understand what the big deal is. And Putin is just this master of, he's just a master of just lying through his teeth, with a smile on his face. And it's just funny to watch people sit there and go, well, I guess he didn't say anything about nuclear weapons, so I guess he really didn't say anything about it. So, yeah, everything's good. Thank you.
I thought all the Nazis moved to South America. Am I missing something?
Paraguay.
Oh, Paraguay, yeah.
Argentina.
Yeah. Argentina. Yeah. So,
Listen to the
most of them are
Italians.
dead now,
The Italian fascists.
Argentina.
Yeah. But that's just me.
So just a quick question away from that. I wanted to see whether anybody here has watched some off or all off Ted Cruz's interview with the View.
Oreste, just really quickly, I know we were wrapping up. Just really quickly.
That was funny.
Oreste's going, oh God.
No, I missed that interview, but I'll see if I can go watch that and everything. A lot of millennials, because I know hold on a second. I know we're getting ready to wrap up and everything, so I just had a quick question for Oreste. What is your thoughts about the millennials' view of the world? Because they've been through a lot. They've been through a 9/11. They've been through a pandemic. They've been through this war that's going on between Russia and Ukraine. So I actually feel for this generation of millennials and everything. But I just wanted, as you've written this book and talked to a variety of them, what is their view of the world, and are they even thinking that they're going to make it to their grandparents' age and everything, or they've got like this attitude of like, I don't know what's going to be the next shoe to drop and all of that. But I'd love to hear your thoughts as to what they've been through, because this has probably been one of the most intense generations in my mind with all that they have gone through.
I think they're really analyzing and thinking about what's really important, and unfortunately, I think they're also living in fear, which concerns me as a minister. I think they're also turning over their power to social media. Tell me how to be attractive. Tell me how I should behave. Show me. I'm giving you my power. You tell me. And that concerns me greatly. I think the internet is, unfortunately, the way it was designed. My background, 20 years in the technology industry, the way the internet was designed too open, so it's become the wild, wild west. And you participate in the internet and social media at your own risk. And unfortunately, unless you have a gatekeeper, that is family, academia, school, people to teach you how to use the internet, you're on your own. And I think there's a lot of fear with the millennials, and they're trying to figure it out. They know they don't like what they've seen with the older generation, but they don't really understand the power of the internet. And that's one of the issues with modern man, is they don't understand the gift of free will, and they think they're in, they can do anything they want, there won't be any repercussions. And unfortunately, we see what goes on with child abuse, people stealing children, and on and on and on. So, just to wrap up a final thought, I think we need, that's why the older generation, is there to mentor the younger generation, if they're open to it. That's the challenge. The old saying, don't do what I do what I say, that doesn't fly with the younger generation, with the millennials. You've got to walk the walk and talk the talk. And, it's kind of tough when you see our leaders, don't do what I do what I say. It's a tough game to follow.
I got nothing.
No doubt about that. Hey, Chris, the other quick question I was getting ready to get to, and then we definitely got to get out of here. I mentioned that there was a thing called the false flag operations. I still don't know what a false flag operation is, so if you can just maybe give me a quick 1 minute.
1 minute. I'll give you in 10
what
seconds.
That is, because
basically
when I'm reading the news stories, I'm going like, all right.
It's me holding
There's
Mark
another term
Lee's
that I
flag. It's me having
No,
Mark Lee's
and
face.
I'm not reading the
It's Mark,
internet enough.
Mark
So
Lee's
what
face
is that?
while I'm shooting Shaquille. That's a false flag. Boom.
Hey,
That's
leave
it.
me alone. We don't have any guns in Australia. Take it away from
So
us.
that's it. That's all it is. I'm just wearing a mask with whatever face I want on it, and I'm performing an atrocity. And I go, oh, see what they did, and that's false flag. That's
All right, Chris, why don't you give you a better example, Chris? Let's say theoretically, just theoretically, Mark. Let's say the FBI was on January 6th promoting violence and breaking into the Capitol, just theoretically.
Yeah, that's
hypothetically.
Hypothetically.
Yes, hypothetically. That would be a false flag. Yes,
Let's say, for
that's-
example, the Democrats claim not to cause inflation.
or people causing violence at civil rights marches and blaming it on the civil rights people. That would be a false flag.
mostly peaceful protests.
That's right.
While they're burning going on in the background.
All right, and
Rocks being thrown.
So, like, hey, since they are not the ones, the oftentimes doing the balance. All right, I got you now. I understand now what's happening. So that's just like mathematics.
I just had to get that to that level. Oreste understands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bless us all, Oreste. We just need it. We need
God
it.
bless you all. There you go.
We need the blessings of
He
God.
totally understands. But on that note, if we're actually
Dude.
we're at the time, so hopefully, because like I said, my computer is doing all kinds of lovely things. So Nick, if you're listening, hit that magic button and get us on out of here so we can go to hear Sasha and all along those lines. So hopefully Nick or Shaquille are listening and can press that magic button to get us on out of here. But Oreste, I really enjoyed